With us today is Bill Mitchell, the founding partner of Cruser Mitchell out of Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you, Chris. Well, very glad to be here.
Absolutely. It's great to see you. So tell us a little bit about your journey to where you are today, right? Everyone has an interesting
Yeah.
story. You've got to have one.
My story, blue collar kid from Detroit.
Okay.
My dad told me I'd be a lawyer. My sister would be a doctor. My brother would be an accountant because he owned a tavern and ran a tavern, and all he knew was the doctors, lawyers, and accountants seemed to be the people who were well off. So he literally told us when we were 9, 10 years old what we were going to do. And ironically, he hit everybody on the nail on the head. My brother was an accountant, but not a lawyer.
Okay.
My sister's a doctor, and I'm a lawyer. That's how it all began.
That's awesome.
Yeah, not a bad story for my dad. Like I say, he was a blue collar guy. Never didn't graduate from high school, and he had a vision for his kids, and it actually worked out.
Yeah, coming from Detroit, you found your way through law school into the insurance industry. Most of us never figured that we'd end up in the insurance industry.
Yeah.
How did you find your way into insurance?
I graduated from law school in Detroit. I went to Michigan State, then Wayne State undergrad or law school, and I got a job at a law firm in Atlanta, and loved everything about Atlanta. So I moved to Atlanta.
Okay.
And I got lucky. I love criminal procedure and criminal law, and I got lucky that I worked for a guy who represented police and sheriff.
Okay.
And it was essentially through insurance, and insurance companies of the city or county would hire him to defend the police or sheriff in various lawsuits. And so, first decade of my career, I spent at least 70% of my time doing civil rights stuff, which was fantastic.
Yeah, you must have had some interesting cases, I would think, along the way.
Yeah. A lot of great cases, from excessive force, shooting cases, jail class actions over delivery of medical care,
Yeah.
police pursuits,
Wow.
a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, it makes for some exciting times. Now, in the years since, you seem to have a passion for negotiations.
Right.
And you have some theories that we've discussed. Share those with our audience.
All right. Happy to. Let me begin with a threshold moment in my career. I was a 5th or 6th year lawyer. Been practicing now for over about 30 years, but back then I was a 5th or 6th year lawyer, and I was trying to get work. I'm a young guy, and you can only make partner if you had your own business. And so I was chasing this executive from the Hartford trying to get work. He shouldn't give me any work. I'm a young guy. I'm not that bright. I'm not that talented. And I kept chasing him. And one day he called me out of the blue and he said, "Hey, I've taken over the school district book of business and civil rights to some degree, public entity work." And he said, "So I've taken over this business, and the school district's been using the same lawyer for several years. And the good news is this lawyer wins every case.
Okay.
But every case, the lawyer bills about 80 to 100 grand. And there's a lot of immunities in these cases. And on this case, so I got a new case in. There's a death case involving a kid. There's multiple defendants. And they want me to use this lawyer. I use the lawyer they always use again. And they lawyer advised, I will win the case. I'll bill about 80 grand budget, and we'll get a motion for summary judgment." And then a conflict occurred. So he said, "Here's the deal. You get rid of this case quicker and cheaper, and I will use you as my lawyer for the school district book of business going forward."
Okay.
So first of all, it's the antithesis of what I had been taught. I'm in a big firm, and our job is to bill,
Right.
which isn't aligned with our clients' needs necessarily. So this was an epiphany of, what? You mean you'll give me more work if I find a way to get out of it cheaper and quicker? Which was incredible. So the stars aligned. I got very lucky. And unlike the $80,000 budget that the other lawyer prescribed, I got the case dismissed with prejudice voluntarily and billed $3,000 on it. So $3,000 in about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So the punchline is, I go back to my firm and said, "Hey, you won't believe what I did." And the response is, "You mean that's a $87,000 loss?" Or no, $77,000 loss.
Right.
80,000 you could have billed, and you only billed 3. And I said, "No, it wasn't. This guy's going to use me forever."
Right.
If I have this mentality and I execute and do it this way, I'm adding value and our interests are aligned. And so I changed my philosophy on how I managed litigation and how I approached law. And sure enough, at the Hartford, we got 9 offices, the Hartford has used us nationwide for a long time.
That seems like a winning proposition. You really thought outside the box on that one, doing something very different than was the status. And that seems a win for you. You got more business, a win for the Hartford. They saved on their litigation bills.
And I wish I could say it wasn't his name is Charles Spencer, right? It was Charles's idea, and he just forced me to think differently. And I did, and it worked. And then I started keeping track of that data, not only for him, but for other clients, where I could show them, hey, you gave me 10 cases, you budgeted $400,000 in fees for those 10 cases, and I moved them for, let's say, total $150,000 in fees. So I saved you $250 in fees, because I knew at the end of the day, insurance companies, they care about their bottom line. So I started providing scorecards with metrics showing cost of case, life of case, cost of indemnity, legal spend, to show them I was adding value and saving them money. And a client recently reached out to me, because I was at CLM last year, and they were talking about scorecards and metrics and all that, and KPMs. And he said, literally, I think you were the first guy to ever send a scorecard in the industry, which would have been about 1996 or 1997.
Yeah, it's the whole thing, a hugely important thing.
Yeah.
You need to understand what's going on with your budget. And you're going to think, if I'm the claims executive, if I'm the legal strategist inside the insurance company, figuring out what am I going to do, I'm going to take a different approach. I think that if I'm used to spending 80 grand on a case, I'm going to probably approach those a little differently than if I can get these things resolved for 3, 5, 10 grand. I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive on this. And I think that probably changes the dynamics quite a bit.
It should. The challenge I've faced in the last 20 years of selling this model is I'm trying to prove a negative.
Right.
If I never would have shown up in that case, how do I approach Charles Spencer and say, hey, if you would have given me that case, I think I could have got it voluntarily dismissed and billed you 3 or 4 grand on it. And he would say, yeah, sure you would, kid. Sure. Yeah. This lawyer's a really good lawyer. He's won every case for us. It costs 80 grand because that's what it costs. So over the last 20 years, my issue has been, how do I prove a negative? Something that, luckily now we get involved. I love being the second law firm hired on a case, because usually the first law firm's been involved in law for 6 to 9 months. They have a budget, they have a plan, they're dealing with this plan, and I'll get involved and say, why haven't we sold the case? And we'll get the first law firm says it's impossible. Love that word.
Yeah.
And I'll just say, we'll go through the numbers. I say, what I can get done for X? And they'll be, that's a miracle. There's no way you could get it done. So give me a chance. And I'm not saying not every time. And sometimes you can't pull a miracle off. Sometimes the plaintiff's lawyer's a jerk. He wants too much money. You got to litigate the hell out of the case. But there's many times that if you have the skill set and mindset to think this way, you will get that result and deliver the miracle. So that's what one claims examiner at a time, delivering miracles, changing their philosophy, that the impossible may be possible.
Right. No, and it's a great approach. Now, you've written a couple of books,
right?
Taken what you've done, some of your philosophies, put pen to paper. Right. Tell us a little bit about what you've written and why you've done it.
Okay. Appreciate you asking. So I wrote a book about 7 years ago with my partner, Rob Cruser, called The Disruptive Lawyers, Little Black Book of Litigation Management. Okay. And that book was essentially based on a bunch of surveys we did and talking to thousands of claims executives, and CLN has confirmed it for me. At the end of the day, 92%-ish of all cases settle, 6-7% get resolved by motions, and 1 or 2% go to trial.
Okay.
So based on those statistics, the whole book is about, if 92% of all your cases are going to settle, when are you going to settle them? Are you going to pay your counsel $5 grand? Go do written discovery, 15 grand, do depositions, 30, 40 grand, go to the courthouse steps, 70, 80 grand.
Right.
And so that's what the book is about. And it's about early evaluation and executing the plan as quickly and as efficiently as possible.
Okay.
And for example, here's how we change our philosophy. In 20 years ago, in every case, not every case, I bet you 90% of my cases, we took depositions in every case, 90%. Motion for summary judgment in 60% of the cases. Now my team gets in front of cases and I bet you we do depositions in under 30% of our cases now.
Wow.
Because we sit down with the other side, and it has to be the right case, but we sit down with the other side and say, we make a demand. And they might say something like, I don't want to make a demand until I take 3 or 4 depositions. Why? Because I think I'm going to have a Perry Mason moment and I'm going to catch you guys. And in this case, it's going to be worth a lot of money. And I'll say, how about this? Why don't you assume you get that information right now? Let me, for fun, let me stipulate you're going to have the Perry Mason moment. Right. What do you want?
Yeah.
And they'll go, what? But what do you want? And sure enough, they'll make a demand, and it might be reasonable or not. But once they make the demand, they're sidetracked, and I got them now to focus on settlement.
Right.
Especially like in clear liability cases, they should settle as opposed to go to trial. So get in front of them and find ways to creatively and aggressively and proactively get them in the settlement bucket.
Yeah, move them along. It's definitely a different way of thinking for sure.
Yeah.
And you've had a lot of success with these.
A lot. And I'll give you another quick example. I do a lot of work. And I might have a case where a plaintiff's lawyer, someone's wrongfully terminated for whatever reason. The plaintiff thinks that it's an $800,000 case. And it's math. We think it's a $100,000 case because the bonuses, we have a big fight over the bonus number. And the plaintiff's lawyer, many times, he's buying a money pit. He thinks it's an $800,000 house he's about to get. A good, nice fee. So I'll jump in front of the case and say, instead of taking the deposition of my CFO and CEO and the general manager, come to my conference room next week, and we're going to give you the numbers. And I'm going to show you these numbers. And these numbers are going to show you that the bonus is about $100,000. And we'll have that meeting, and maybe the case doesn't go for $100,000, but after we talk, it goes for $150,000, which is still lower than the cost of defense.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And we didn't do any of those depositions, right? That's the time before you pay me 50, 80, $100,000. That's the time to figure it out and try to resolve it. And what many firms do, I think, criticism from feedback from various carriers is they're tired of the law firm who says we're going to win on summary judgment, and they bill 50, 80, $100,000, and then they lose, and then they pay twice as much in indemnity had they just started litigating it, trying to negotiate from day one.
Right. No, it's a really good point. And I think you've taken it a step further though, right? You're actually teaching negotiation classes.
So because 92% of all cases settle, I Googled, and there's some courses on negotiation, but nothing at the level I wanted to teach. So we wrote a book called The Disruptive Lawyer's Little Black Book of Negotiation. And from that book, which is wildly popular, we've probably given away 2,000 or 3,000 copies. We give it away. We don't sell it. Both books we don't sell. But I do a series called The Masters of Negotiation, which is about 6-hour Zooms, 6 one-hour Zooms over 8 weeks. And I've trained probably now at least 5,000 claims examiners on how to negotiate. And it's higher level negotiation. It's intellectual. It's like one topic's called the theater of mediation. You walk in mediation, and this is like a poker room.
Right.
And everyone's language, physical and verbal, is telling the mediator and the other side what's going to happen then and during the whole entire day. So I train on what should be done at mediation to make sure we're sending the right messages and not giving away tells.
Right.
And I don't think strategically the industry many times isn't thinking that way. Negotiation is mostly about leverage. I'll go to various seminars and say, or I'll hear someone say, we had a great seminar on mediation. I said, oh, what were the top leverage points they talk about? And they'll be like, what are you talking about? I'm like, mediation is about leverage.
Right.
Settlement's about leverage. The more leverage you have on them, the better deal you get. The more leverage they have on you, the better deal they get. So every mediation and negotiation needs to focus on leverage. And it's like a kaleidoscope. It changes. The leverage you thought you had today might evaporate. And some leverage point you hadn't thought of in the case of 6, 9 months old, boom, you have an opportunity to leverage and get out of the case.
So if our listeners were interested in taking your negotiation class, what would they do?
They go to our website, cmlawfirm.com, and we have a disruptive lawyer tab. And I think that the next session starts maybe April 17th.
Okay. So it sounds hugely beneficial.
Yeah. And you know what? The reviews are excellent. Most people, the best feedback I got is the general counsel said, I've been doing this for 20 years. And in this seminar series, I learned what I didn't know. So bravo. So we may add value. That's all we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we need though, right? We need people that are proficient negotiators to move things along so we can just resolve
Yeah.
the cases and not clog up the courts. And
what else? And as we wind up here, I'm not saying settle every case. I have some insurance companies say, I don't want that reputation. I said, how many cases you tried last year? Oh, 1%. I said, you are who you are. All
Right.
I'm telling you is if you try 1% of the cases, put them in the settlement bucket, figure out what you want to go in the settlement bucket and go try them. I
Right.
get it. Go try them. But if you're not going to try them,
Yeah.
just because you sit on them for a year doesn't mean they get better. And CLM actually, Taylor did a survey here for CLM a couple
yeah,
of
he
years
was out
ago.
earlier. Yeah.
And what claims executives were asked this question: do you think you're spending more on legal fees? And they said, absolutely. Do you think those legal fees are leading to lower indemnity? And 80% of the claims executives said no.
Right.
So that means lawyers are billing, but they're not. The claims industry is not getting a return on their investment for legal bills.
Correct.
And my whole philosophy is everything you should do when you litigate should lead to some return on investment.
Right.
Take the deposition. If you think there's a $5,000 deposition, you think you can get $100,000 in indemnity, do it. If you want to file an MSJ that costs 15 or 20 grand, but you think you'll get back 400,000 in indemnity,
Right.
do it. But it all should be strategic based on a return on your investment.
Yeah. Pursue the lowest ultimate cost.
Bingo.
So, Bill, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us, and wish you the best on your negotiations and your book and everything that you're working
I
on.
appreciate it. Chris, thank you for having me. Very kind of you.